Hi, welcome back to Earl Grey Books. I'm Ellie. Today I am talking about my favourite books from the second half of 2023. Now, if you found this video with absolutely no context, you might be like, it's the middle of March. Isn't it a little bit late to be talking about things that you read in 2023? But I have only just returned to making videos. I had stopped in July of 2023, so this is my first opportunity to talk about them. Now, I have selected a couple that really stood out, and I'm going to talk through them, and I will explain why I chose these ones over other ones as we go through it. But let's start, and we're going to start from things I might have read in July and August through to the end of the year. The first one I read not too long after stopping with videos, and that was I Have Some Questions for You by Rebecca Mackay. If you watched my videos before, you quite possibly know that Rebecca Mackay is one of my favourite authors. Her book previous to this one, The Great Believers, is one of my top 3. I was a little nervous about this one. It took me a few times to get into it, and I ended up actually listening to it on audio for most of it. This is a sort of cross between a sort of, I don't know, like a boarding school literary piece with a mystery element to it, and murder. But a murder that happened in the past at this boarding school. The protagonist was at the school at the point and knew the girl who was murdered, and then has now returned as a teacher for the semester and is sort of haunted by this girl's death. And when I was listening to the audio, and once I really got into it, I would listen to this all day, and then as soon as I would stop, I would just think about it. The ending still haunts me. I still think about it all the time, and I think as well with this book, I don't know how to explain this, but the case felt real. Like, it really felt like this was a woman that I'd read about in the news, who had died, you know, a teenage girl. And I think about her all the time. And as far as I know, this isn't based on a real case or anything like that. But it was so well done, in my opinion, that I still think about Thalia's death. So it was pretty fantastic. Around the same time after that one, I really was going through an audiobook phase, and I listened to quite a few. The next one was an audio listen, and that was Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. I'd had this one for a while. I bought this one when I was in Boston in 2019, the end of 2019. And I'd always shelved it as one day I'm going to be ready for this book. I just knew that it would be incredibly intense, because everything that Butler does is. And so I finally got to it, and I got it on audio because I thought that would be easiest, and it was, again, fantastic. I don't think I would have made it through this without the audio, because it's very violent. There's just a lot of stuff that happens. And I think almost listening to it was easier. I guess it kind of, I don't know how to explain why that is, but it was good. The narrator was fantastic. It's a really good story. again, like a few of the books on this list are the same, but these two in particular were definitely ones that I finished and I just felt like, you know, that was my response to finishing them, was just this like deep inhale, and I still think about both of them all the time. Now, there is a sequel to this one, but at this stage, I don't actually think I want to continue it because I really liked where this one ended, and I'm nervous that if I read the second one, well, more dark stuff is going to happen, and I was kind of happy like in the spot that we ended. So it's set in a sort of post-apocalyptic world, which I think is literally 2025, I think. 2024. Yep. It starts July 20th, 2024. People live in like gated, not really gated, like fenced in communities, and the world outside of those is violent, and people are killed for food and bicycles and clothes and shoes and all that kind of stuff. Our main character, Lauren, is that her name? Yes, Lauren lives in one of those communities with her family. She suffers from hyper empathy, which is basically like when people around her feel in pain, she also feels that, which is really interesting. But it's not really so much about that. It's a journey, but she also is it's kind of a like religious journey. She's setting up like her own belief system, which is called Earthseed, which is the name of the series. And it's a coming of age and also about that. I'm not a religious person. That is not something that I find comfort in. But it was really fascinating in here. And it's really interesting. But it's definitely a book that I would not recommend to most people. It's a hard sell. It's a hard sell. I think you definitely have to be interested in Butler to pick this up. I would not recommend starting here. And then let's mix it up a little bit and go into a little bit more of a regular read for me with some romance fantasy. This is Little Fire by Holly Manns, which is book one of the Warriors of the Five Realms series. I can't remember exactly why I loved this so much, but it was one of my favorite reads of last year. It was just a really solid fantasy romance, and that was exactly what I was wanting at the time that I picked it up. I had read the little novella prequel beforehand, and I enjoyed that, but I was super excited to see the couple in this book, and it was a great read. I had a lot of fun, and so yeah, it didn't quite, change my life in the way that these two might have, but it was, not every book can be a life-changing book, and I just had a lot of fun reading it. Okay, next one. This is the only reread that I am putting on here. I reread a lot in the second half of the year, and I will, I guess, kind of slowly talk about the other things I read in 2023 as I read things this year. But this one is Melamander by Thomas Taylor, which I had been saying I was going to reread since 2019, I think. I did reread it. I absolutely loved it. I read it in a day, and then I read the next two books in the series and adored all of them. This is such a fantastic series. This is a middle grade fantasy, but in like a real world setting, and in this sort of seaside town, which is called Erie-on-Sea. Yeah, Erie-on-Sea. And there are all these, like, in the off season, you know, in the winter when all the tourists are away, there are all these sort of creepy stories, and there are these mythological beings, and one of them is the Melamander. And the main character, Herbie, is a lost and founder in a hotel, which basically means he looks after lost and found objects, and he kind of gets pulled into this mystery and, you know, searching for this mythological creature. And it is a fantastic book, a fantastic series, and I would highly recommend it. Okay, some more fantasy. This is The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. This one I was kind of hesitant about. I bought it, I don't even know when, maybe 2020. This is the indie copy before it got picked up by Penguin, I think. So it's been on my shelves for a while. I don't know. This again was just really fun. It's a sort of enemies to lovers. There are these two kingdoms, and one girl she's the princess of one, and she gets kind of sold into marriage with is he a prince? Is he a king? I don't remember. She gets sold to him and goes over to this bridge kingdom. And of course, they fall in love, and there are twists and turns. Yes, this was really fun read. Again, I read this in, I think, a few hours. It was an intense book. There are a lot of mentions of snakes, which is not something that I'm personally afraid of, really. But there are also mentions of spiders and sharks, which are two things that I am hugely afraid of. So I don't know why I felt like I needed to mention that to you, but I did. In case that's something you don't like, there's a lot. It's still a lot of fun. It was totally worth reading through those bits where I was like, oh God, there's one scene in particular that I think will haunt me, and I'm not going to say what it was, but it was just like a lot, and it was still just like a really great read. Okay, I'm kind of going to break my own rules and do this in a slightly different order. So this one is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman, but I'm also kind of talking about the sequel, The Man Who Died Twice, because I read both of them towards the end of last year, and obviously I loved this one, and so I continued with the second one. This one I think was still like, I mean, the first book, nothing ever lives up to the first book, right? This was something again that I was super nervous about, because I don't tend to love a lot of crime thrillers. I think the reason that I liked this one and that I was even willing to give it a go is because it's very light Agatha Christie vibes. You know, all of the characters live in a retirement village, and some of the crimes are kind of intense, and there's some dark shit in here, but it was still fun, I think, because the characters are still kind of just having a good time, that it isn't as, it's lighter than, you know, if you were reading Ian Rankin tell you the same story, but with like his set of characters. So I had a really good time, and it's definitely become a favorite series. and I will be talking more about the third book in a video very soon because I am currently reading it. So I'm feeling especially, I didn't even notice that there was actually a review from Ian Rankin on the front. But yeah, I'm feeling particularly connected to this series since I am reading the third one right now. And finally, the one I wanted to share, or wait until last, even though I did read this before Thursday Murder Club, and I think after all the others, but this was my favorite book of the year. This is the only book I've given 5 stars in, I think, since 2020, because when I was reviewing it on my blog, I actually had to make a 5-star rating graphic because I didn't have one already. So I hadn't given anything 5 stars since I started posting on this blog. And that is Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Bowley, I think. I also listened to this one on audio. Oh boy. This, I mean, the fact that I gave it 5 stars and I haven't given anything 5 stars in, 3 years at the point that I was reading this, and I haven't given anything 5 stars since, should probably tell you how much I enjoyed it. This was so well done, and this is so not the sort of thing that I would usually read. It is a bit of a crime thriller. It's a YA, but it is, again, there is some really dark shit in here. This is one of the most trigger-filled books I've read in YA. There is so much stuff. There is so much stuff that you are not prepared for. But for some reason, I absolutely loved it. There's a lot of stuff as well, like it does not shy away from anything. It's on the page. It's intense. The audio was absolutely just beautiful. It was so well done. So emotional. I cried so many times listening to this. It's written in this way that I could picture so much of what was happening, even if I didn't have those same experiences, if I didn't exactly know what things were. It was still very vivid. And especially the emotions, like there's a lot of emotions in here that were just like getting hit with a truck. And that's like, I would describe the whole book that way. It is like just getting absolutely sideswept by like a huge truck. And it was fantastic. I loved every second of it. I also really enjoyed, it's kind of a sequel, kind of a spin-off called Warrior Girl Unearthed, which I also listened to on audio, and that follows some characters in this one, but later. I'm going to put this down because it's kind of a heavy one. And that was also incredible. Not quite as good as this one, but still like absolutely fantastic. I guess fantastic is my word for this video. But yes, it was really, really good. So those, if I can pick them up, those are the best books that I read, my hair's attached, in the second half of 2023. Such beautiful books, truly. And that's the end of this video. I'd love to hear if you've read any of these, because no one I know has. I'm just looking at them. No one I know has. And I would really like to discuss them with people. So let me know. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to put these down because these are heavy. Now they're stuck. Okay. And I'll be back, I think, in 2 or 3 weeks with my next video. and I'll see you all then. Bye.